Hello, this is Weirdy8 here and welcome to my first anime review. Today I'm reviewing a show that is widely considered as a slice of life in the afterlife. I'm reviewing Angel Beats. Our story starts with our main character Otonashi Yuzuru waking up one night only to find that he has no memory of his past except for his name. We are introduced to a girl named Yuri who tells her that they are in the afterlife and tells her that she leads a group of people just like them who have also supposedly died called the Afterlife Battlefront. Their goal is to fight against a silver-haired girl simply known as Angel. Of course, he doesn't believe Angel is a threat, but when she talks with him, he suddenly gets proof of his death by getting stabbed. After waking up from what should have been a fatal wound, he decides to join them in order to learn more about this world and to protect himself from Angel. But oddly enough, he finds himself quite drawn to Angel, not seeing the divine judge that she's described as. So, while getting his memories and learning to be with Angel more as a friend than an enemy, he gradually learns the mysteries of the afterlife. Like you just heard, calling the show unique would be an understatement. I have this gut feeling that this premise has been done before, but for the most part I found the plot to be quite interesting. The setting is what could be dubbed as a Purgatory School, and for those who don't know what Purgatory means, it's basically an afterlife that's neither heaven nor hell. The show juggles between the death stories of the characters and the antics of Yuri and the SSS, including random competitions, variations of disrupting class, illegal concerts, and gunfights with enough bullets and explosions they could be part of a Michael Bay film. This also leads into a lot of slapstick humor, but don't be fooled, this isn't gonna be like Three Stooges. Because of the whole death scenario, the level of severity you can have with the slapstick knows no bounds. Whether it's being bludgeoned by a mace leaving enough blood to repeat an episode of Elfen Lied, or strapping kids to rocket chairs, a nice substitute for the Team Rocket blast-off. Of course, no medium simply uses death as one big gag book. One of the key aspects of the show is in fact how to pass on to the afterlife, and it does it really well. All of these characters have lost something precious from them that has affected their lives until their final death. Whether it be the chance of a lifetime, someone held dearly, or just the fact that you won't be able to live anymore. So like any other teenagers with stress, they rebel against the system through the antics that were mentioned earlier. However, if they satisfy their regret in this afterlife instead, they can finally pass on. Once it focuses on that, this show truly shines. Sure, it's not up to the level of Clannad After Story, but I doubt someone would go through this show without at least one tear coming out. There's certainly a lot of characters in the show, some of them actually being more interesting than the main characters, but the main characters get the most screen time, so I'm gonna be focusing on Otonashi, Yuzuru, and Kanade. Otonashi can be best described as a cipher. Just like us, he doesn't know anything about the world he's in or the peoples he's meeting, and he slowly learns it with us. However, it's done at the cost of his character traits, as he's unfortunately the blandest of the group. He does have an interesting backstory though. Next we move on to the leader of the SSS, Yuri. When I first saw her, I thought of her as a clone of Haruhi Suzumiya, and for the most part she is. She's got the same hairstyle, same hyperactive personality, and is a magnet for trouble. But unlike Haruhi, who leads everyone into chaos just for the heck of it, Yuri is doing it for the sake of others, making her a pretty cool character to root for. She also has a really messed up backstory. Finally, we move on to the angel herself, Kanade. Kanade is the most mysterious of the characters, as she's introduced as the villain, but she doesn't really do anything to deserve all this hate. This goes well with the fact that she's actually the wisest character, as all she's trying to do is help everyone pass on without regrets. And I have to admit, she is really cute. The show was animated by PA Works, who has a consistent track record of making good-looking shows, and this is definitely one of their best. For something that's based around a school area, you'd think that the entire area would feel limited, repetitive, and dull, complete with backgrounds you'd expect to see once every 2 seconds, and a color palette you get from a finger painting class. That's not what happens in here. Clever use of camera angles, huge amount of details in the background, and just a natural sense of lighting, whether it be sunlight, moonlight, or just from a light bulb. It manages to create an immersive feeling you'd usually get from an animated film than an actual series. Sure, the character designs are pretty moe considering that they were designed by Key, who are known for Clannad and Canon, but the animation itself is smooth as silk, and it has a huge amount of colors too. Sure, it's not a color orgasm like say Redline or Mind Game, but it's refined and has a really appealing look for the eyes. When I first listened to the soundtrack to Angel Beats, I just thought it was okay. I didn't think it was memorable, but I thought it was at least fitting. But now that I re-listen to it, I have to disagree. Sure, there are some repetitive background noises here and there, but just the sheer amount of variety and memorable tracks had me bursting to tears or getting goosebumps, whether it be synth, rock, or even epic orchestra. The opening song, My Soul Your Beats, has gotten into a lot of people's top favorite openings list, and it's easy to understand why. Seeing the angel play the piano while the rest of the characters are introduced is definitely a treat to watch and pleasant to hear. While the ending doesn't have the amazing animation you get in the opening, I actually prefer the song better in this one, because it actually left a bigger impact for me by the end of the show. Both of them are excellent, and I still re-listen to them from time to time. Despite all this, Angel Beats does still have problems, and it mainly has to do with its characters and story. Now, I don't really have much of a problem with the characters themselves, as even if some of them are stereotypes or otherwise dull, they all each have a very interesting story to tell. My problem is that most of the characters are either underdeveloped or just simply glossed over. No one knows why this kid wants to be called Christ. No one knows why Kanade is put as the student council president. No one knows why this guy won't stop breakdancing. And trust me, I've only reached the surface of the problems here. Many of the characters are introduced as stereotypes and remain so for the rest of the show. And considering how many of them are more interesting than the main characters, the show ends up feeling a bit too short. That problem is also part of the overall story. By mixing different genres, Angel Beats not only manages to be touching, but also exciting, thought-provoking, and even funny at times. The problem is that it doesn't know how to make all of this into a coherent narrative. The result is a show that pretends to have a plot, but is really changing what it wants to be every episode. For example, it starts off as a dark, yet somewhat funny mystery about a world where no one dies. But by the end, we spend so much time on rock concerts, baseball, and other distractions that we don't have enough time to explain all of this. And all of this culminates into one of the most rushed endings I've ever seen in an anime, period. Overall, I do think that Angel Beats is overrated. The plot is pretty messy and the characters do need development, but there definitely is something to enjoy about this show. It may be flawed, but it still remains as an interesting look at how youth go through life. For that, I give it 3.75 awkward ways to die